Hello everybody, it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with a slightly different type of video. You see, today is more of a kind of behind the scenes type thing. Yes, today we're doing a little bit of hobby, I guess, but we're mostly just going to be looking at some cool stuff. This is stuff that I use in my daily driving setup. It's things like my turntable, my photography lights, the filming lights, some other things that are pretty cool. It's basically to answer a lot of questions that people ask me about where did you get that and also what is that. So yeah, I've just got some cool stuff to show you and to tell you why I use it and what it is and all that kind of thing. These are, I guess, product recommendations if you like. So we're going to be looking at a couple of little hobby bits. We're going to be looking at a couple of little bit of content creatory bits and some furniture. Yes, that's right. So this one is slightly different, so let me know if you like this kind of thing and you find it interesting, and indeed if you want to see more hobby products, more content creatory stuff. We can do all of it, it's up to you, but I'm really just kind of testing the waters here because this one feels like a risk. I'm not entirely certain why, it just sort of does. And indeed, if you have any product recommendations that you want to make, then just kind of let me know. You can do that by commenting below. Links won't work, but you can tell me what it is and I'll go and find it, because if you find this stuff useful, then I would like to find stuff that you find useful and see if it's useful for me. That's a lot of uses of the term useful. 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 Do you ever say a word so many times it starts to sound weird? Useful. Useful. So yeah, let me know if you like this type of thing. Just comment below and do like the video. If you don't like the video, then, give it a dislike. That's absolutely fine too. And of course, it would be absolutely marvelous if you could subscribe to the channel, because that would be really nice of you. I would greatly appreciate that. But seriously, if you want to see more of this type of content, do all of the stuff I just talked about, because there's more we can talk about, like cameras, computers, more cameras, microphones, all that good stuff. Can also take you on the journey of where I hope to go this year, that type of thing. It's sort of a behind the scenes and recommendations. We've already covered all of that. We should just get on with it, shouldn't we? First up, we're going to talk about two things at once, and these have been really interesting finds for me. First, we have the Vallejo brushes, and Vallejo sent these to me when they sent me the Express Color Plus stuff. And I was skeptical at first because, it's a brush made by a paint company, so you never know. It could either be good or it could also be terrible. But as some of you may know, I recently painted a Warhound Titan, and I used pretty much exclusively these Vallejo brushes, especially the Pro Modeler 2. And I've used it, Alice has used it, she's been painting the Purple Sun of Shaiish and things like that, and this has been through some punishment, and look, it still has its tip. It's not all gummed out, it's not all kind of splayed, it's not all horrible to use. This has been an unbelievable find. So based on the Vallejo experience that I've had with this brush, that doesn't make sense as a sentence. Based on the experience I've had with this brush, I'd say the Vallejo ones are pretty much a dead cert. I think they're pretty good. The one I didn't like was the synthetic one. I used that on the stream and I haven't used it again since because it was a bit springy for my taste. I think it was this one, the Precision or synthetic one. I've used it a little bit since, but it's, synthetic brushes, you either kind of love them or you hate them, I think. Some I've just kind of got this really nice spring to it, which is really good for doing things like highlights and stuff. It means it will be very good at holding its edge and stuff, and there's a little bit of paint still on that one. I need to give that a good clean. But this one is kind of it's more natural hair for this one. It doesn't have quite as much spring, but it means it's got lots of really good absorption to it. And like I said, I've been using it, Alice has been using this exact same brush, and I don't feel like this one's ever going to lose quality. It's absolutely fantastic. They also do a really cool line of little round-headed dry brushes as well. Again, we use these to great effect on our Warhound Titan, and these were just very, very good. Really cheap as well. I've kind of looked at buying some more because they are honestly just exceptional brushes. They're really short as well, which means you get lots of really kind of really easy maneuverability with the brushes. Great for stippling, great for dry brushing in circular motions, etc. Absolutely fantastic. Wholeheartedly recommend Vallejo brushes. If you can get your hands on them, like I said, they're pretty cheap, they're very good, and well, I'm just incredibly impressed with them as a brush range, and I would like to use them more in the videos going forward, but you know, we have our policies. You know, for example, I like to use the medium layer brush and the small layer brush because that's what most people have access to as their first brushes. So that's why we use the Citadel brushes. But I might start using a couple more of these because they are absolutely just phenomenal. And it's like leaving a race car just kind of rotting in the garage because they're really, really top-notch brushes. Absolutely wholeheartedly recommend them. Now, the other thing we're going to be talking about, as mentioned, is Water Plus from Instar Paints. Now, this is a medium, essentially, and it comes in everyone's favorite, a dropper bottle. Now, it's distilled water, but there's some extra stuff that they don't talk about what that is on their website. However, it is non-toxic, so don't be too worried about using it, and it can be used with anything. They also say it can be used with a wet palette, dry palette. It has less effectivity in a wet palette because you know, obviously you're distilling the properties of this, but this is to basically thin down your paints, and it's absolutely unbelievable for thinning down any kinds of paints, and it works with all of them. And again, use this to great effect on my Warhound Titan Stream, and I wholeheartedly recommend it. It's really good and really easy for deploying a thinner to your paints, and it comes in this really large bottle. There are smaller bottles if you want to try it. I believe it comes in sort of 5ml bottles all the way up to 100ml, but honestly, this stuff is fantastic. So I'll just demonstrate this for you now on this piece of palette paper. And like I said, I've got 3 different types of paint in front of me. I've got some metallic, some Citadel metallic, I've got a contrast paint in the form of Shaiish purple, and I've got some Evil Sunz scarlet. So we're going to start with the metallic to give that a good shake, as always. Just going to open that up, and then we're just going to grab out one brushful with our Vallejo brush, pop it down there on the palette, and then I'm just going to take 1 drop of Water Plus, pop it in there, give it a good mix, and now our usual test, if it's thinned enough, should be that if I run this brush through, the paint will reform over the top of it. So I'm just going to, oh, there you go. I'm pressing quite hard there. You can see how much my brush is bending. It's not separating entirely, which should just be a good indicator of its quality for thinning down. And it's as quick as that. You don't have to worry about dipping your brush into some water and popping it out and kind of coming back and forth and this, that, and the other. It's just top work. It's really, really nice stuff for thinning down your paints. And as you can see, it hasn't separated, which is good. It would if I just left it and sat there, because I've obviously messed with it a little bit there. But it hasn't separated out, which is also really good. You can see this in action again over the top of some Evil Sunz scarlet, for example. Red's always a tricky one. Again, we'll just take a brush load of that, pop that down, go for 1 droplet of Water Plus, give it a good mix, like that. Gonna wash my brush so we don't kind of contaminate the test, and I'm going to run my brush through it, and as you can see, it doesn't separate out too much. It reforms over the top of my brush mark, so it just perfectly thins down the paint. Now you can also use it rather than just using 1. You can like add 2 or 3. So you can add 1, 2, 3 more droplets to it to turn it into like a wash or something, or a glaze. You can add another 1, 2, 3 to make it even thinner and glazier, as you can see. You can add even more if you wanted to. There's what, 10 in here now, something like that. And at that point, we're starting to turn into more wash territory, as you can see. But the stuff is just great. You know, you can really go to town on it. You can use as much, as little, and it just does a great job at thinning down your paints. It's just excellent, and it just speeds things up. Very, very cool, and it's basically foolproof. The only thing is that sometimes, if you're not careful with the kind of nozzle, you can end up actually dropping 1 or 2 more extra drops out that you don't necessarily want to. So just be careful. I mean, if you're good at using like dropper bottles, you should be fine. But as mentioned, you can also use it for things like contrast paints. And here we have Shyish Purple, notorious for being horrid. And we can just take 1 blob of that on there. And then we can just put 1 drop of the Water Plus in there. Give that a good mix, as you can see. And then maybe somewhere down here, you can start to apply it. That type of thing. I mean, Shyish Purple is just annoying anyway. It's not a great demonstration of the paint. But if we put like another one in, for example, you really just like kind of improve the flow of your paints without kind of taking too much away from that contrasting effect. You can see there's like 2 in there already, and whilst this is the kind of the initial droplet of that, it's kind of more what you expect from Shyish Purple as a colour. So honestly, wholeheartedly recommend Water Plus. It's really good stuff, and like I said, it just speeds up the thinning down of your base and layer paints, and who doesn't love that? You can also, as also mentioned, you can use it in a wet palette, but its effectiveness isn't quite as strong, or so that they say on the website. I don't own a wet palette, I only ever use a dry palette. And as you can see, through all of that, our Pro Modeler 2, still absolutely fine, and the paint, well, the tip of the brush is absolutely perfect still. Like, honestly, this brush, it might be my favourite brush of all time. Genuinely one of the best things that Vallejo makes. Vallejo makes really, really great paints, but this is an absolutely phenomenal brush, and I would wholeheartedly recommend it from the bottom of my heart, and then the rest of it, because obviously we're saying wholeheartedly a lot. But yeah, definitely check out both those from a hobby perspective, because they're just fantastic.
One of the most frequent questions I get asked is, where did I get my paint shelves? Well, I have the Citadel paint shelf from TT Combat. I have 1, 2, 3 and 4 of them. This is so that I can basically present all of my Citadel paints in a way that is useful to me to be able to see all of them. And some of you might be thinking, hang on, this isn't organized properly, this looks silly. Well, the way I organize my paints on these, because I absolutely have space to do that, is I organize it by type and alphabetically. So all the shades go along the top alphabetically, then the contrast paints all alphabetically, then the base paints, and then all the layer paints. Now, as you can see here, I'm also showing off the console table on which they stand, and that's because 4 of those shelves sit very nicely on the Vasagli console table with sturdy steel frame for entryway, living room, bedroom, industrial style, brown, vintage and black wood material alloy 120 by 23 by 74 centimeters, open brackets L times W times H, close brackets, to give it its full name. And it all just matches up really nicely. It's a really cool little storage for all of the paints, and it looks absolutely fantastic, and I think you'll agree.
This is the Aizon smartphone video mount overhead articulating arm phone holder stand for baking, crafting, demo videos / live streaming, to give it its full title. It's a desk mounted iPhone holder basically, or phone holder, and this is the thing that I've used to film all of my tutorials with for the past 4, maybe 5 years at this point, who knows. I really like this one. I've tried a couple of others at times just to see if there's a little bit more that I can get out of it, but what you tend to find is a lot of them generally will give you something like this. So you either get a ball mount like this one here, and then you get this kind of clampy type thing which you put in here, so you slide this out and put the phone in there. However, this to me, I don't like having this kind of like clip type thing, which you use to tighten it and retighten it and this, that and the other. It puts too much stress on the weight of the phone, depending on what type of phone you're using. Whereas this guy absolutely is fantastic because it's just a grabby hand. So you can literally just take your phone and just pop it in like that. I mean, that's a terrible angle and a terrible shot, but you know, that was just really easy to do. And then all I can do is just pinch it and it's back in my hand like this. So it means I can put the phone in, film, pull the phone back out in seconds. I really, really like it. You've got this one kind of up and down bit, which is tightened using this. So you can obviously secure things, or you can have it really loose, like that type of thing. I generally have it kind of sort of not too tight, so I've still got a bit of articulation in that joint. It's a nice little kind of cable run type thing, which is where I plug this into the computer when we do our live streams. You see that little kind of nook that it just kind of slides into like that. It's very, very cool. And then what you have here is you've got the actual ball mount itself. Now that is secured using this. This rotates like that. Give you your articulation. And this is kind of the only real point of failure. If you squeeze this too tight, you can end up snapping this because it's not particularly high quality. So you can end up snapping down here. So you don't want to kind of tighten that too much, or kind of try and bend it around the ball joint that's holding it in there too much. However, this has absolutely served its purpose for a couple of years and it's been fantastic. And so I would wholeheartedly recommend this to anybody who wants to start filming tutorials using their phone, because that's what I've done for the past couple of years. And as you can see, really easy shot, top down. So then all I can do is pick up, for example, this model, and I'm ready to go and start painting, which is just a really, really cool bit of kit, and I wholeheartedly recommend it. Sometimes all we want to do is take some really high quality photos of our miniatures. And well, for my tutorials, of course, I have to take some really high quality videos of my miniatures. Now, I'm just going to show you what my kind of setup is here. This is very, very recently changed. Very, very recently changed. Now, what we have here, first of all, is this backdrop here from Black Velvet Styling. It's a really, really nice backdrop, and it's one out of, I think, hundreds of different choices. I bought a few more to do a little bit of testing. You will have seen one of these before on the channel. It's this one just here, and this one is also absolutely fantastic. And there's a couple more that I haven't yet had a go with. It's just kind of keying in the right camera settings in order to use it. But I would wholeheartedly recommend these, because these are like a A1 vinyl, I think, is what the size is. And it's just, firstly, it can be used as a fantastic sort of backdrop for your miniatures, or it can be used as a battle mat if you really wanted to play games of Kill Team or whatever. I mean, that right there just looks like some sort of Martian soil, right? It's absolutely fantastic. We have other ones as an example. Here's another one, a piece of kind of wood. It's not great showing up on the camera just there, but there you go. There's another really cool one. Like I said, there's tons and tons and tons of stuff from Black Velvet Styling, and 100% check them out. Now, I've secured this to the wall using some command strips just back here, and that acts as my backdrop for all of my photos and videos. And then what we have here is we have this Dwarven dais from Dark Fantastic Mills. Now, this is an objective marker, I believe, but it comes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different kind of pieces. So that's not just a bit of 3D printed terrain, but it looks absolutely fantastic. I painted it up myself, and you can see how I did that here on the channel. So I wholeheartedly recommend those. I then got this kind of sort of display table, which is how we used to film those intros. If you look under here, you should see all of the rocks and things, and that provides some ballast for the turntable, which is under here, as you can see. And this is a little battery powered one. I can't remember what it's called. I will put it on the table, on the screen, so that you guys can see it. And then all that does, it's battery powered. So we've got a little switch just here. It has 2 speeds depending on how you put it together, but that will spin now until the battery dies. You can get battery powered ones, or you can get mains powered ones, but this one has been absolutely fine. I've never had to replace it. It's perfect. Rotates at a really nice speed, especially with the weight I've got on there from the kind of this kind of tray that's full of all those rocks, and then this on top. We've then got this little kind of tripod thing, which is where I obviously mount the camera here. And then to take my photos, like I said, this is very recently changed. What we have these little square Niwa photograph lights, tiny little ones. So I have 2 of these, and I used to have 4. There's one, and there's another. These 2 would provide an overhead shot, but I've recently changed to this, and again, I can't remember the brand of this. I will put it on the screen for you. But this is just like, I think Red Grass makes a very similar one, but this is just a little kind of hobby task light, which can sit everything with articulating arms. There's 2 of them, which just bathes this area in light, as you can see. I think it looks great. And this is so we get our overhead shot, and then we provide a little bit of a kind of we compensate for any shadows coming from down by having these 2 lights here and here. So these are both on, all of this is on. So if I now just mount my camera in here like so, and I'll just move like that. This should be familiar. Then we just pop our miniature down and then readjust like so. I'm holding it quite awkwardly, but there you go. And that's how we get our rotating shots. Really cool little setup that I've got here, and it's probably the most complete one, and I'm a big fan of it. There we go, that's a little bit better. I'm not having to hold it, although we've got a little bit of space around here. And as you can see, that's how we do our rotating shots, and this is how I take all of my photographs as well. So even if we were to take something like brand new Belial and put him in here like that, and then turn off the turntable like so, we can then reframe, reposition the camera like that sort of thing, and then zoom in a little bit like that, and then twist him till we get that magical angle like that. And it doesn't really need any image processing as well. Again, all this is shot on the iPhone 15 Pro, so that's as easy as it is.
Now's not the time to be sleeping on into the AM. It's time to get up, and it's time to get back to work. But before you do, you should check out intotheam.com. They've just turned 12 years old, and to celebrate, you can get a mighty 25% off site-wide, and an additional 10% off when you use my discount code between the 1st and 7th of February 2024. I absolutely love these tees, especially the big graphic ones. They're about as me as I have found in recent times. They fit wonderfully, and even after multiple washes, the graphics don't degrade. So what are you waiting for? Head to intotheam.com/Warhipster or use code Warhipster at checkout for an extra 10% off. Thanks to Into the AM for sponsoring this one, and now back to the action.
Speaking of lights, it's time to talk about serious readers. Now, they very recently, as I'm sure you know by watching the videos, they sent me the Gemini Table HD light. And it's an absolutely fantastic light. It's brilliant. I finally found a really good way to integrate it into my setup up here. And what you'll notice up here is the HD Gemini light. There it is. One and two. It's 2 light engines on one frame, which is really good. Now, the reason it's up there is because it's that powerful. Now, I haven't currently got this head on, but I'm going to turn the head on. Check this out. Stand up. a little bit. Now I'm beautifully lit. But not only that, it provides a little backup to that bulb up there. Now, what it does give, and you can't really tell because I haven't properly filmed this bit, but what it does give is a really nice little reading light for me right here. So when I'm editing videos like I've been doing today, this is my video editing desk. When I'm editing videos, I've got this light up here, which shines nicely down on my keyboard in front of me. So for one, it gives me a really good way of seeing my keyboard. It reduces the eye strain whilst I'm editing, especially during these winter months. Not only that, whenever I'm making videos to do with rules, or I'm coming up with color schemes, or I'm basically writing anything to do with law or whatever, for example, here in this Dark Angels book, I like to sit here and read by my desk because this is where I will make my notes. I'll type them out. And, well, having a really nice reading light all the way up there, it's not too strong, but it really just makes it so much easier to see things. It's much less harsh than using like a hobby light or something, and I can see perfectly. See what I mean? Beautifully lit. Looks fantastic. Not difficult for me to read at all. And that's the main thing. That is what's so good about this light. I mean, it's what they sell it for, but it does also work, of course, as a hobby light, which is why we're going to move over to the other desk and you'll see what I mean about the other light engine. Here we are then, hobby desk land. So one of the things that these don't do so well is work as a great light for filming, because they are very, very strong. It's very directional light, and in order to get them really good for filming, you have to put them all the way, like this one's full arm stretch, I'm sat down, it's all the way up here, right? And that gives you a really good kind of soft light for filming over the top of the tabletop. But what it doesn't do so well is when it's close in an area where you want it to be, in a kind of more practical area, is it generally tends to be a little bit too strong, a little bit too directional, and it kind of blows out the camera image. It doesn't for your eyes and for painting, but for filming it's not so great. That's the only downside of them. Now what I do film under are these big panel Niwa lights, and they're kind of designed for the fact. But this is how I hobby. I have my filming setup here, and it's great. I mean, I can see perfectly, but crouching over the hobby desk can give me a lot of kind of back or neck strain, and that's not really kind of great and conducive to doing lots of long painting sessions. So generally when I'm painting, what I like to do is I like to film leant forward, doing all of that thing, and then you'll have seen me do this on live stream. I tend to lean back in my chair. What I need is a really good light for back here, because this is very directional from these panel lights over this bit. I need a really good light for back here so that I can still see what I'm doing and not have it all shrouded in darkness. Because this is where I keep my live stream camera, as you can see. Hello! And filming these types of videos. And the rest of my desk is here. So this is where I generally like to film. Hunched over like a goblin. But given as I paint for somewhere in the region of 12 to 16 hours a day sometimes, hunching over like this isn't great for my back. So I like to sit back up, and then I like to lean back. And you can see it if I move like this. There we go. See my forehead? That is where this Sirius light comes into play, because now I've got a really nice spotlight just here for me to paint under. And I use it as a reference light as well, also for painting in a more relaxed area. And honestly, Sirius readers were really kind to send that to me, and it's been fantastic. An absolute wonderful addition to this chaos that is my hobby centre.
And whilst you will have seen a bunch of this footage already before, I do just think that Sirius readers lights are absolutely worth the investment. They are quite expensive, but it's worth it if you have failing eyesight like I do with my glasses, and if you want a kind of just really powerful punchy light that's going to last you forever, basically. The Gemini light's really good because of the different angles. You get those two light engines instead of just the one from the floor light, but this Gemini version does come in the floor light. The downside of the Gemini is that it has to be on the heavyweight base, which means it takes up a lot more desktop space, as it were. So for bigger desks, it's absolutely brilliant, but for a kind of more narrow desk like I have, it doesn't quite work for just like a full daily drive of a hobby light. But that is a kind of nitpicky thing, because if you just take the single light engine, the normal HD light, you don't have to have the heavyweight base, so therefore you can have the lightweight one, which means it takes up a little bit less space and it's a bit easier to move. But the heavyweight base does mean that it's really rugged and easy to just kind of keep intact at all times. Another great selling point about these is that even by dropping the exposure to -2.0 on the iPhone 15 Pro, which is an excellent camera for low light situations, you can get super artsy shots like this. And when the light reflects off my hair, you can see it brings more of the background in, but you can just see quite how much of me is illuminated in a completely dark room. There's no other lights on in here at all. It's just this, and I'm filming at sort of 1 o'clock in the morning. You can look really moody and kind of sexy like this. The best representation though is of a miniature, and this is a Vampire Lord, of course, just underneath the Sirius Reader's HD light, just one of the light engines. As you can see, completely dark room otherwise, and all I've done is dropped again the exposure on the iPhone down to -2.0, just to give it that as close to the human eye as you can possibly get in a dark space, because like I said, the iPhone likes to compensate for a dark space by doing lots of cool things in the background. But you can just see how every detail is picked out. It looks fantastic. It's really easy to paint under. It's not ideal for filming under, but genuinely these lights are superb and they're worth checking out, and they are absolutely worth the investment. I completely endorse that 100%. So there you have it, folks. Some really cool companies making some excellent stuff for both hobby and content creation, being a YouTuber, an Instagrammer, whatever you want to do. I hope you found that useful, and do let me know if you have any other ideas for more kind of behind the scenes content, that kind of thing that you'd like to see. We can absolutely work on doing more of this. I had a blast doing this today. I was trying to think of, where to stop, because there's more I could obviously do, and then there's stuff that's really obvious, like everybody knows about, and I'm just like, maybe that doesn't need this whole entire section in the video like this. But as long as you enjoy a peek behind the curtain, then I shall continue to show you. So, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon for another video, probably in a couple of days' time. Who knows? We make a lot of videos around here.